You know, I've been doing this for almost 35 years. We're just in a different day. It's hard to get your brain wrapped around how much change is really going on out there.
There's a growing trend towards cashing out. Hardly anyone carries cash with them these days. In the future, you may be getting rid of more than just your wallet. One day, you may not even need your phone to pay. New cashless technology on the horizon will let you make payments with just your fingerprint.
And so what I wanted to share with you a little bit today are just some thoughts, just to try to open up your minds a little bit about this time we are living in right now and what's really going on.
Mobile payments can generate a mountain of digital data that can tell lots about us that we may not want people to know.
Whereas today, everything is connected. Organizations are connected to their customers electronically. People are connected to each other. Today, we don't think much about how everything is becoming connected and how much that changes the world when data flows across the world. Or we don't look at things such as mobile devices. I mean, we're all carrying mobile devices today, right? And it's funny because it can look out at any audience. Yeah. And the whole time I'm talking, there will be people that are on their devices. Now, they could be taking notes, yeah? They could be tweeting, best speaker I've ever heard, right? Who knows? But it's amazing how addicted we've become to these things already. Now, what we have to understand is this is just a first step. It's a first step. We're going to move from mobile to wearables to implantables. And I know it's a hard thought for some people to think about. We're going to be implanting technology so that we can connect better to technology, but we will.
The Agenda 2030 that was adopted in New York in September was, in my view, a really revolutionary step forward that really has changed the way that we together look at the world. And
these goals that underpin the 2030 agenda are universal. They're not just goals for one set of countries or one set of communities. They apply to the whole world.
You know, I don't think we have an appreciation for the fact that we have been pretty blind most of our life. I mean, we've been pretty blind to the things that are going on around us.
So I think that this is really a very, very important and interesting time to be in politics. And I believe that we have a new world after 2015. We have a common map for the sustainable development of our planet. And of course, now our focus is very much on a rapid and thorough implementation of the Agenda 2030 into Swedish politics and legislation.
The big thing to understand is that this is all a historically significant time. When we say the words digital transformation, we don't mean you got a new iPhone. I mean, we mean that humanity is being changed in a massive way.
For the first time ever, CoverGirl has introduced its first ever male ambassador.
That's right. CoverGirl describes him as a boundary breaker and says he'll be the first of more boundary breaking representatives.
I think it's a good, progressive, inclusive step forward for the company as well.
Recognizing that not just women wear makeup. I mean, that's definitely something you don't see as often. Guys wear makeup.
Celebrities are directly or indirectly drawing attention to a movement that blurs gender, in which a person can choose to be male or female or both any day or hour they want.
It's called gender fluid or gender fluidity and is among the top conversations.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov will meet next week in Switzerland to launch a new round of peace talks. Other regional powers, including Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, are also expected to take part. The decision to resume talks comes after several weeks of escalation following the breakdown of a truce last month.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to visit Turkey for the first time since Turkish forces shot down a Russian military jet.
I have full faith that the normalization process between Turkey and Russia will continue at full pace.
So there is a sense here that this is yet another step, another effort to try and show the world that more than just friends again.
What's the weather forecast in space? Is there a weather forecast for space? Well, that's what President Obama wants scientists to keep tabs on. The president issued an executive order today trying to get the science community prepared for solar storms that could disrupt us here on Earth.
Solar storms happen all the time. Scientists say that they're like 1 million nuclear bombs exploding at the same time. Yes, they're that big. The problem is, no one knows exactly when the effects of one of those storms could strike the Earth.
Mystery in Baldwin County. What's killing birds at the mouth of Weeks Bay? State wildlife officials are investigating the deaths of more than a dozen seagulls, brown pelicans, and great blue herons.
Professional wildlife photographer Cynthia Danaski has been taking pictures of birds here for years.
We've never seen anything like this.
It's very unusual. I don't normally see that down here.
Locals that fish here are not sure what's happening.
It's more than I've ever seen in the parking lot down here, so it's unusual.
It's pretty disturbing. Dozens of dead seagulls are found in a Portland park, and now wildlife officials are asking for help from the public.
It is an unusual request, but it's because 36 juvenile herring gulls have died there in recent weeks with no explanation.
Hundreds of dead fish are washing up on the shore in Guilford. People who live in the area are asking us to come check this out, figure out what is going on here.
Patrick, one lady told me she saw a catfish wash ashore dead this morning. Collier County officials say beaches from Marco Island to Wiggins Pass were all littered with the fish carcasses.
We don't get stuff like this in Hollywood.
Even Naples residents like Joanne LeBaron were surprised to find hundreds of fish lying dead on the beach this morning.
I have never seen this many dead fish on the beach at all. So,
a pollutant in Dubuque and Jones County creeks has killed nearly 8,000 fish. But the Iowa Department of Natural Resources is still trying to figure out what that pollutant is.
It's an all-too-familiar sight, a U.S. Navy ship launching missiles against targets in the Middle East. But this was different. This was the first time the U.S. has fired at one of the warring sides in Yemen's civil war.
It's the second time in just 4 days missiles have been fired at the American destroyer.
Russian-U.S. relations may be heading closer to a flashpoint for the first time in decades.
And News Channel 5's Rebecca Schleicher shows us why experts say the presidential election will play a key role in the recent resurgence of Cold War tensions.
As a 5-year civil war wages in Syria, old foes square off in a proxy war once again.
And so Russia and Iran have thrown their weight in to support Assad against most of his people.
The U.S. is backing the rebels, rising up against Bashar al-Assad's oppressive regime.
A professor says Russia has taken advantage of what Putin believed was a weakening America to push its influence around the world.
This generation is uniquely placed to change the course of history. As Secretary General Ban Ki-moon rightly pointed out, this is the first generation with the potential to end extreme poverty, and the last one able to act to avoid the worst effects of climate change. No community should be considered to be outside the span of this new agenda. Whatever your ethnicity, whatever your livelihood, whatever your lifestyle or location, all of you are inside the agenda. We need to inform everyone that these goals are the heart of a plan for the future of the world's people, as well as for the planet itself. Peace and security, human rights and justice, and sustainable development brought together within this 2030 agenda.
The quantity and the intensity and the complexity of the issues that are faced now in this more interconnected world are truly daunting. They're political, there are civil wars, there are regional conflicts, there are simmering disputes. We can reel off a list. So we need to evaluate now, in this modern time, whether we have the tools that we really do need.